I've seen trends come and go, but this caught me off guard. Trump's words about Filipinos weren't just praise, they sparked a movement. I doubted it at first, but then I dug deeper and what I found, eye-opening. Americans aren't just visiting the Philippines, they're moving there. Here's why. Let me paint you a picture. You step off the plane and the heat hugs you like a long-lost friend. The scent of grilled street food drifts through the air, sweet, smoky, and impossible to resist. Somewhere in the distance, you hear laughter. Filipinos laughing with their whole chest, like life itself is a joke too good not to share. And in that moment, something clicks. The Philippines isn't just a place, it's a feeling. Now, if you told me years ago that Americans, would be packing up their lives and moving here in droves, I'd have laughed. I mean, sure, the beaches are paradise, the people are friendly, and everything is ridiculously affordable, but moving full time? That's a whole different level of commitment. But then I started hearing the stories. A guy from Texas who sold his house and now lives oceanfront for less than what he used to pay in rent. A nurse from New York who came here on vacation, fell in love both with the country and a local, and never looked back. A retired couple who used to stress over their bills but now spend their days sipping fresh coconut juice under the shade of a palm tree, wondering why they didn't do this sooner. And suddenly I got it. The Philippines isn't just a tourist destination, it's an escape hatch from the American rat race. It's proof that life doesn't have to be spent grinding yourself into dust just to afford a 2-bedroom apartment and a weekend off. It's a place where community still matters, where a neighbor will invite you to a fiesta like your family, and where even a simple meal feels like a celebration. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not perfect. The traffic, wild. The heat, brutal. The power outages, yeah, they happen. But you know what else happens? You learn to slow down, to breathe, to actually live. So now I gotta ask, have you ever thought about making the move? Have you been to the Philippines? Would you trade the stress of the West for the simple joys of island life? Let's talk in the comments. I need to hear your take on this. And hey, if you're new here, welcome to the channel. If you love content like this, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We've got so much more to uncover and I don't want you to miss a thing. Picture this, it's the year 1901, deep in the heart of Samar, Philippines. A group of Filipino revolutionaries, armed with nothing but their sheer will and outdated weapons, ambushes an American military unit. The result? One of the deadliest battles of the Filipino-American War. The US responds with an iron fist, launching what history books now call the Balangiga Massacre. It's a chapter so brutal, so haunting, that even today, the bells taken from the church as war trophies remained a point of contention until, after over a century, the US finally returned them in 2018. That's just one example of how layered, painful, and yet strangely unbreakable this relationship is. It's a saga of war, betrayal, alliances, friendships, and above all, mutual resilience. For decades, the Philippines and the US have been like that on-again, off-again couple who argue, split up, but somehow always find their way back to each other. After the Philippines gained independence in 1946, America didn't just pack up and leave. Nope, they stayed. Military bases flourished and economic partnerships grew. But here's the kicker. The US didn't just leave a political footprint, they left an entire cultural mark. Ever wondered why basketball is practically a religion in the Philippines? Thank the Americans. Why Filipinos have such a high English proficiency, US education policies, even the classic Jollibee burger. Yes, the one that's somehow sweeter than anything you'd find in the US was inspired by American fast food. Then came the 90s, and Filipinos started questioning, why do we still have foreign troops on our soil? By 1991, the Philippine Senate voted to close US military bases. It seemed like a breakup, but just like that one ex who keeps texting, America wasn't gone for long. The Visiting Forces Agreement, VFA, in 1999 brought US troops right back, this time for military training and disaster relief efforts. And let's be real, the Philippines, with its complex geography and geopolitical challenges, benefits from that alliance more than some care to admit. Now fast forward to 2025, with China flexing its muscles in the South China Sea, the US and the Philippines are tightening their military ties again. In fact, just last year, the US secured access to 4 additional military sites in the Philippines under the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, EDCA. Why? Because let's face it, the region is a powder keg and nobody wants to be caught unprepared. But here's the real question, where does this leave Filipinos and Americans today? Are we stronger together, or are these political moves just another game of chess between superpowers? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Should the Philippines continue strengthening its ties with the US, or should it pivot toward greater independence? And hey, if you're enjoying this deep dive, hit that like button. It helps the channel reach more curious minds like yours. A few months ago, Jake, a 45-year-old electrician from Ohio, found himself in a situation that felt all too familiar. Bills stacking up, rent rising, retirement, forget about it. One evening as he sat in his car after another 12-hour shift, scrolling through the news, he stumbled upon something unexpected. Donald Trump praising Filipinos. The Filipino people, they're incredible, hardworking, loyal, and when they set their minds on something, they make it happen. At first, Jake shrugged it off. Another speech, another soundbite, but then he noticed something strange. People in the comments weren't just agreeing, they were talking about moving to the Philippines. He clicked, he researched, he fell into a rabbit hole, and what he found changed everything. Jake always thought of the Philippines as just a vacation destination. Beaches, tropical weather, cheap beer, but as he dug deeper, he found something bigger. Cost of living, you can live comfortably in Cebu, Davao, or even Metro Manila for less than $1,500 a month. Housing, a beachfront condo in the Philippines costs less than a down payment on a house in the US. Healthcare, top-tier hospitals, English-speaking doctors, and treatment costs that won't bankrupt you. Community, Filipinos are some of the warmest, most welcoming people on the planet. You won't feel like an outsider. Jake was skeptical. Too good to be true, right? So he did something crazy. He booked a flight. The moment he stepped off the plane in Manila, something felt different. The air was humid, but the energy? Electric. Everywhere he went, people were smiling, greeting him, asking about his trip, not out of politeness, but genuine curiosity. Within a week, he realized he'd been living the wrong life. No more 40-hour work weeks just to survive, no more cold, impersonal cities, no more dreading the future. Instead, he found freedom. He rented a beautiful apartment for half the cost of his US mortgage, made friends instantly, and finally, after decades of chasing the American dream, he felt at peace. Trump's words weren't just a casual compliment. They ignited something. More and more Americans are waking up to the fact that the Philippines isn't just a vacation spot, it's a viable escape from a system that's failing them. And it's not just retirees like Jake. Digital nomads, veterans, entrepreneurs, they're all realizing that the Philippines offers a quality of life that America simply doesn't anymore. If thousands of Americans start moving to the Philippines, what happens next? Will this shift impact US-Philippines relations? Will the cost of living in the Philippines rise as more foreigners arrive? Or could this be the start of something bigger? I want to hear from you. Would you ever consider moving to the Philippines? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. This can't be real. The day Mark's life changed forever, he was sitting in his tiny New York apartment staring at his bank account. $117 left. Rent was due in a week. Food, forget about it. He had mastered the coffee for breakfast, lunch, and maybe dinner routine. And then his phone buzzed. A message from his old buddy, Jake. Dude, I'm living in paradise for less than your rent. You need to see this. Attached was a photo, white sand, palm trees, a beachfront apartment. Mark thought it was a joke. How was this even possible? Well, it was real. And Mark wasn't the only one making the move. Americans are leaving. Not just for vacations, but for good. So what's really happening? Why are so many people abandoning the American dream for a country 8,000 miles away? Stick with me because this might change the way you see everything. Let's be real, the US is squeezing people dry. The average rent in major US cities, $2,000 to $3,500. The average rent in the Philippines, $300 to $600. A fancy dinner, $5. Healthcare, a fraction of US prices. In short, in the US, you work to survive. In the Philippines, you work to live. Mark remembers stepping off the plane in Manila. Something felt different. People weren't rushing. They weren't stressed. They were laughing, chatting, just living. And for the first time in years, he felt free. No 50-hour work weeks, no worrying if he could afford his next meal, just waking up, grabbing a coffee, and deciding what he wanted to do. That's the Philippine lifestyle. Less grind, more life. You don't just move to the Philippines, you become part of it. Filipinos are different. They welcome you like family. They invite you to their homes. Before you know it, you're celebrating birthdays, eating home-cooked meals, and realizing this isn't just a place, it's home. But here's the catch. With more Americans moving in, things are changing. Will the Philippines become the next Bali? Will prices skyrocket? Will paradise disappear? I want your take. Would you move to the Philippines? Let me know in the comments. And if this hit home, smash that like button and subscribe, because the next part of this story, it's even wilder. Stay tuned. Grandpa had a secret. When Lucas was 15, he found an old dusty box in his grandfather's attic. Inside, letters. Some were in English, but others, a language he didn't recognize. "Hello, what's this?" he asked. His grandfather sighed, smiled, and said, "It's time you knew where you really come from." That's when Lucas learned the truth. His roots ran deeper than he ever imagined. See, the Filipino-American connection, it's not just about history. It's alive, it's personal. And for millions of people like Lucas, it's still shaping their lives today. But here's the thing, this connection is evolving in ways most people don't even realize. And by the time we're done here, you'll see it too. 4.4 million Filipinos live in the US today, one of the largest Asian American communities. But this connection, it started over a century ago. Filipino soldiers fought alongside Americans in World War II. Tens of thousands of Filipinos migrated to work in US fields and canneries. Today, Filipinos dominate the healthcare industry with over 150,000 Filipino nurses in the US. The Philippines and America, more than allies, more than friends, a family intertwined. But here's where it gets interesting. Lucas grew up in the US, but when he turned 18, something weird happened. He met a guy online from the Philippines. Same last name, same family history, distant cousins thousands of miles apart. And this isn't just Lucas. Filipinos and Americans are reconnecting online like never before. Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok are bridging the gap. Filipino culture, food, music, humor is exploding worldwide. Even US companies are turning to Filipino talent for remote work. The connection, it's stronger than ever. Filipino nurses in America, overworked, underpaid. Filipino workers for US companies, sometimes exploited. And let's not forget, the Philippines still struggles with economic challenges while America reaps the benefits of cheap labor. So what's the future of this connection? Is it truly equal, or is one side benefiting more? I want to hear from you. What's your take? Drop a comment below. I wasn't supposed to stay. Mike landed in Manila with one suitcase and a 6-month plan. He was supposed to soak in the beaches, eat his weight in adobo, and then head back to the US to resume the rat race. But then something happened. He didn't leave, not because he couldn't, but because for the first time in years, he actually felt free. And he's not alone. Americans are moving to the Philippines in numbers we haven't seen before. But why? What's pulling them in? And more importantly, should you be next? Let's break it down. For decades, the US was the land of opportunity. Big houses, bigger paychecks, the ultimate dream. But today, sky-high rent, brutal work schedules, no time for life. $500,000 for a tiny home in California? $3,000 a month just to rent an apartment in New York? Working 50, 60 hours a week just to survive? It's no wonder people are asking, is this even worth it? And then they look at the Philippines. Mike had no plan to move permanently, but then he found a beachfront apartment for $400 a month. His $3 morning coffee in the US, now 50 cents. Strangers treated him like family. And here's where it gets interesting. More Americans are making the same move. 50,000 plus Americans now live in the Philippines full-time. Remote work has made it easier than ever. Retirees are stretching their savings 2 to 3x longer. It's not just about costs, it's about quality of life. But before you start packing your bags, there's something you need to know. Yes, the Philippines is paradise, but it's not perfect. The humidity, it's real. The bureaucracy, slower than you'd like. The cultural shift, if you're not ready to adapt, you'll struggle. So the question is, are you ready for the change? If you've ever dreamed of leaving the stress behind and living on your own terms, maybe it's time to stop dreaming and start planning. What's holding you back? Let's talk in the comments. And if you're new here, subscribe, because trust me, this is just the beginning.